And now for our feature presentation.
You're listening to the JB and Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online.
He's going to go into the end zone.
Puts it up. Yes! There goes Davis.
Oh, my God.
Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
American Pharoah is finally the one. American Pharoah has won the Triple Crown.
And Bonds hits one high. It's a deep. It is out of here. Fly ball into right field. She is gone.
Unbelievable. A home run for Gibson. And the Tigers have won the game 5-4. I don't believe what I just saw.
Here are your hosts, Jamie Bradford and Darren Goldwater.
All right, greetings and a good Thursday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JV and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Check them out at stokesvw.com. Darren Goldwater to my left. I am Jamie. We're here until 2 p.m. this afternoon, and between now and then, we won't breathe much because we got a lot going on today. 4 guests set to join the show, and you can watch for free every day, and all those guys that will be here in just a little bit by heading to Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope. Just type in JB and Goldwater, and that's where you'll find us. You can listen, of course, on the Podbean app. That is also free, jbandgoldwatershow.com. Check out our website. If you ever forget, oh, man, where do I watch those guys? Where can I go back and listen to an old show? Well, you can always go back and listen on any app that's out there, any platform that, like iTunes, Spotify, anywhere you get podcasts. We're not a podcast, but we're in podcast form when it's over. But if you forget how to do that, just go to jbandgoldwatershow.com. We've linked everything right to our website. Again, across social media platforms, at JB and Goldwater. He is at Darren Goldwater. I am at Sports Radio JB. I mentioned 4 guests, and they start in about 10 minutes. David Cloninger with the Post and Courier. He'll join us from Columbia, South Carolina. Today, D.C. and the rest of the media boys and gals toured Williams-Brice Stadium. The upgrades are almost finished in Columbia, and they got a sneak peek at those. We were also invited, I will note, but of course Darren and I could not make that trip with the show kicking off at noon. But DC, he'll be our eyeballs, and we've got a couple of photos from him that we'll show you coming up here in just a little bit. We'll also check in on the Gamecock statue. If you're a Carolina fan, you're going, yeah, where the hell's that been? It's 3 years late. There's an update. DC's going to give us that in just a little bit as well. And also under the lights Saturday night at Williams-Brice Stadium, they've got a scrimmage coming, and this scrimmage will be very telling for what the depth chart may look like in the next week or so following. So we'll talk to DC about that. We do have Corey McCartney at 12:30 today as well in Atlanta. We'll discuss the death of Tom Seaver with Corey. Just a tragedy. Not a tragedy, but it is a tragedy because Tom Seaver is one of the best baseball players the world has ever seen. Talked to him about the Braves. The Braves have done something that has never been done before in baseball the last 2 nights. And we'll take a road trip around the rest of Major League Baseball. And how about get an early peek at Cy Young, MVP, and Rookie of the Year winners with Corey McCartney. So that's at 12:30. At 1 o'clock today, fun conversation ahead with our friend David Shelton. Released yesterday, the All-Low Country All-Decade team. And there are some really notable names, so he's going to break that down. The All-Low Country preseason team set to be released today. And tomorrow, the preseason top 10 list will be released. Of course, Friday Night Lights tomorrow night. Darren will be on the call, and he'll tell you about that here in just a minute. And then Scott Glaze at 1:30 this afternoon, and there's a lot to get into with golf with Scott. The BMW last week, still were just stunned by how that finished. And then the Tour Championship rolling right along this week over in East Lake. Believe it or not, we actually have other stuff that we're going to try to squeeze in as well. Maybe a Big Ten vote tomorrow. Maybe. We'll tell you what the rumors say and what 3 websites are reporting that. And some hoops news to get to as well. Oh, and by the way, FBS football kicks off tonight, and you can watch it. Hello, Darren.
And not only does FBS football kick off tonight, but remember when football in general kicked off last Saturday? Central Arkansas played.
That's right.
They've now gone through 2 rounds of testing without any positive COVID tests, and they play again tonight.
And the Big Ten's going, where are our pads?
Like,
Hey,
do we have a team in Arkansas?
We're gone. We're out. We're in. We're in. Check us in. Somebody tap me in.
Or tap us out. Who knows?
Just-
Maybe there's a vote.
Just tap us. Tonight, a couple of games, Central Arkansas, UAB. That's on ESPN 3 at 8 o'clock. And then at 9 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network, South Alabama and Southern Mississippi. USM is a 13.5-point favorite in that ball game. And then the previous game, UAB is not kicked off yet. This will be their first game of the year. Central Arkansas, as you mentioned, has. And they did win the game late in the ball game. How about that tailback they've got, Kier Crossley? He can play. 12 carries last week for 110 yards, I think, and a touchdown. So he'll be on display tonight if you want to watch that. From Legion Field in Birmingham, Alabama, where they once ran out of pizza during the Papa John's Bowl.
Well, don't eat Papa John's is my message to everybody because it put me in the hospital. So, if it runs out of Papa John's, then, get a new sponsor. That's my best advice for you.
That's right. 843-321-8893. That is our phone number, 843-321-8893. You can text us there as well if you'd like to be a part of our program. You're always welcome, even when we have guests online. Tweet to us or whatever it may be. When we don't, call us, text us, whatever you want to do, and we'll try to plug you right in around here as well. Real quick from Coastal Carolina, Friday Night Lights on ESPN 3, September the 18th, 7 o'clock from Conway. The Campbell Fighting Camels will be in town, and that game will be nationally televised on ESPN 3. Let me read this real quick. This Clay Travis put this out this morning, but it wasn't from Clay Travis. I went and found the 3 sources he was utilizing here. Look, I believe it when I see it, but we do need to read this. Dave Biddle from Bucknuts, which is the 24/7 sports site for Ohio State, was first to report that the Big Ten's presidents and chancellors have, quote, tentatively agreed to revote on either Friday or Saturday, which would be tomorrow or the next day, in the next 48 hours. Kevin Noon of Buckeye Grove, which is the Rivals website for Ohio State, did confirm the Bucknuts report, also added, quote, there is no guarantee as to how this vote will go, but it is thought that a vote to resume the season would mean a mid-October start, potentially October the 10th, end quote. Sean Callahan of Husker Online, which is the Rivals site of Nebraska, added this, quote, a behind-the-scenes vote count is being taken, and if there is enough support to bring it to a vote, it will happen. If they know they won't get the 9 votes, remember we talked about this yesterday, you got to have 9 because you have to be over 60%, so 9 of 14. If they know it won't get to the 9 votes from the presidents/chancellors on Friday, there won't be a revote. So if a vote does happen this week, it means they already know that they have enough support to overturn this. Stay tuned. If that happens, camp could open as soon as Saturday. It sounds like there are a few teams that just don't want to play, so you could have 3 or 4 teams sit out and not play if the vote gets overturned, in quote. Now, that's all. This is all. Look, we've heard. I heard this, and you heard that, and this is what his grandma's parents, sisters, brothers, neighbor said, and yada, 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 yada. I'm sure that these guys have quality sources. I don't doubt any of them in the work that they do, Dave, Kevin, or Sean. So I am not going to say that any of their reporting is wrong because I have no proof of that. I also don't have any proof of the other way around either. So I appreciate this report, basically put into one column here from Ryan Glass-Piegel, who writes for Outkick. Of course, it's owned by Clay Travis. I really appreciate that. But I'm still going to be in wait-and-see mode, and really you're going to need a little bit more firm to believe that this is actually going to happen especially tomorrow
Well, look,
or Saturday.
if there's any news out of the Big Ten and you take it with anything other than a grain of salt and a wait-and-see attitude right now, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
You're doing it way wrong.
You're right.
So hopefully they get to a vote, because if they get to a vote, it means that they're trying to save face and they won't have this vote fail.
Yeah.
And hopefully they get to the vote and it passes. And I guess we'll wait and see, because
absolutely.
I mean, because who knows? I'm certain there are schools that just don't want to play in the Big Ten. I'm also certain there are schools that really do want to play in the Big Ten. Yeah. Are they going to be able to convince the presidents to reverse course? That's really the only question out there.
Okay, let me ask you a question. I just want to get your thoughts on this. I had to do an interview yesterday with the Locked On the Gamecocks podcast. Keith Alsep, host out of Austin, Texas, and we were discussing this actually a little bit. Let me ask you if this makes sense to you. I'm a little flabbergasted by why, and I understand that it is standard protocol in every league, and I get this. But why should a vote be warranted from a school that's not going to play anyways? And here's what I mean by that. If Rutgers and Maryland, let's just say, for the sake of conversation, let's say the state of Illinois is like, it doesn't matter. We're not going to let Northwestern or Illinois play football. I don't care what the vote is. I'm the governor. This is what's happening. We all know nobody's happy with the governor in Illinois. Nobody. Like, literally nobody in the world. So let's say you've got those two teams, and then Rutgers. JC brought up a great point yesterday. Rutgers is essentially right outside of New York City. We all know what's going on up there. That's 3. And then let's say, I don't know, maybe Maryland's like, look, we're not going to be able to do this either. That's 4. Why should those 4 presidents have a vote in this?
That's a good question, and it comes down to likely the bylaws of the conference themselves, because that's what the vote becomes, right? All of the Big Ten institutions are all one under the umbrella of the Big Ten. So even the ones that know they aren't going to play, their vote has to be the 60%, right? That's the number that they've got to get to. So it makes perfect sense what you're saying. Just, okay, you don't want to play, you can sit over there, and the 9 that do want to play, come on to the table, let's vote.
Right.
But the bylaws of the conference are going to say that you can't do that.
I mean that, and I understand that. And and you know, I mean, I would think that you can make an exception if you really pushed hard enough or pulled some backdoor levers or something like that. But I mean, I was just kind of doing the math in my head. And I'm like, well, now wait a second. Let's say you've got 4 teams that they're just not going to be able to play because of either state law or the president's not going to allow them to do that. The president of their schools, not the country.
Yep.
And then you eliminate those, which would be 11, 12, 13, and 14, which would mean you'd have 10 presidents left to vote. That would actually, if it's still 60%, if it still equates to 60, that would drop the flips to 3 as opposed to 6. Right now you need 6 flips to get to 9 votes because you had 3, 4, and 11 against in that 14 panel vote
right
earlier, a few weeks ago. But if you exclude those who it doesn't matter what the vote is, we're not letting them play anyways, then you would actually only have to flip 3 as opposed to flipping 6 presidents or chancellors' votes.
Yeah.
So it would drop the number.
It makes sense.
Equal the percentage, but drop the number.
It makes too much sense because on the surface, what you just said is so logical. It's, all right, so here's the Big Ten. You guys don't want to play, don't play.
Yeah.
We want to play, we're going to go play. The problem that they're going to run into, A, the bylaws, B, the Big Ten Network is going to have something to say about it because when the Big Ten expanded out to 14, the D.C. market with Maryland, that was really big. The New York market with Rutgers, it's a really big deal.
Yeah.
So if those are 2 that aren't going to play, how does that impact the financials of the network? And how does that impact what each school will receive? I mean, so there are really annoying little details that have to get worked out, even though on the surface it is so obvious to just say, look, 10 of your teams want to play, go play.
Yeah.
You 4 can go sit out. But I mean, it's just not – that's not how it works, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I mean, that's what a lot of conferences have done. We've seen it right here in our hometown. I mean, they're like, look, the league's not going to play, but we're going to let you go play. I don't know why the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and others just can't do that, but they're not.
Yeah. They can is the answer. They just right now for the Big Ten to revisit this vote, to then go back on what they said, in the end, you've got to convince Well, the 60% of the 14 guys, the presidents. That's it.
Yep.
So why will they change their mind now? That's my question. I mean, I can give my own answers as to why they may, but are they going to do that? Are they going to want it to look like that these esteemed leaders of these institutions have caved into peer pressure?
Yeah.
Are they going to want that? The stigma is the wrong way to put it, but that it is going to look like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, they'll have to supply their vote with evidence as to why they flipped.
Yes.
I mean, if it's the testing or whatever it is. So, well, I know we need to flip the script because David Cloninger is going to join us here momentarily from Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah, as soon as I remember to call him, he's
And
going to join us.
it's okay. and we'll get an inside peek at what Williams-Brice Stadium now looks like in Columbia, South Carolina. How about our friends at DB's Cheesesteaks? You should check them out always. It's Thursday. Buy one, get one half off foot-long cheesesteaks at DB's, dbscheesesteaks.com. You can order online. You can also go to any delivery app that you have. They're on every one of them, and they'll deliver it right to your doorstep, contact-free and all that type of stuff. I would suggest trying my favorite, which is the buffalo chicken cheesesteak. I do get lettuce and tomato and mayonnaise on mine. I also get fried onions, and it is fantastic. dbscheesesteaks.com for their entire menu. Whatever you order there. Don't forget the boardwalk fries. Don't forget about the kids, even if they don't like cheesesteaks. They like hot dogs, they like cheeseburgers, whatever it is. DB's Cheesesteaks can accommodate every family here in the Low Country, and you voted them number one. Charleston's Choice, number one, the best cheesesteak in town. dbscheesesteaks.com. Still ahead on the program at 12:30. Corey McCartney joining us from Atlanta. David Shelton at 1 on a bunch of stuff, high school sports related here in the Low Country. And then Scott Glaze ahead at 1:30 out at Stono Ferry. So covering pretty much every inch of the sports world on our program today. But now we'll go to Columbia, and that's where we are joined by our friend and yours and one of the most handsome bearded men in all of the sports media. And even Will Muschamp said that on our program last week. He said he liked DC's beard. So there you go. David Cloninger. Hey, man.
I somehow must have missed that part. I heard the other thing he said. Don't worry, though. We talked about that, too. And exactly how Will left the stadium, holding an ice pack to his eye wasn't quite clear. But that's okay, though. That's all right.
I know. Well, I set him up. I'm all over you with this beard thing. I need to stop it, don't I? I'm sorry, man.
Well, actually, man, the beard's gone now.
Oh.
It wasn't because of you. It was because I had to do some Zoom interviews and look presentable. So you guys don't count as presentable.
No, that's always –
yeah. See, I had to do some other things about, with Dawn Staley and things like that and, some other folks. So I was like, you know what? It's too hot to wear this thing anyway. So I just scraped it off the other day.
That's normally the way it goes. Or the wife says, you know what? You've got these pictures that are coming up, and you gotta cut that hair. You gotta shave that beard.
That's pretty much what it was, man. My hair was getting too long, and it is just back to that miserable heat and humidity in Columbia right now. So I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore, especially if I got to go outside wearing a mask a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Do it.
I know.
So it's gone. It has gone the way of the dodo.
I feel like summer waited until the start of football to bring us the real heat. So hopefully this will only be for another few days and then start to slowly usher itself out here. Although last year in the beginning of October in Williams-Brice, it was like 106 or something. But hopefully that will. All right, speaking of Williams-Brice, so you were there this morning taking a tour of all the renovations, David. And I think you've been kind enough to allow us to use some of the photos that you took. So I think Darren's going to pop some of those up on the screen here in just a moment. But of everything that you saw, all the new club levels, we'll get to the statue and stuff here in a little bit. What was your favorite part of that experience? What was the new shiny object that caught your eye the most?
Well, I really like how one of the new premium areas is called the Cockaboose Club.
Yep.
And, the Cockabooses has always been kind of a pet peeve of mine. I know it's unique, and I know that everybody loves it and says, man, that's such an original thing. And it is. But, it's not like regular Joes go into those. Mm-hmm. You got to have an awful lot of cash to have a Cockaboose. And that was one thing that always kind of went, unsaid. Everybody like National would always present as like, oh, yeah, you can just go in these things at game day. I'm like, no, you can't.
No, you can't.
Not unless you're funding a scholarship or two.
Right.
But the main thing, the point I'm getting is that they still love what those mean to USC and the attention that they draw. So they took a lot of that motif and took it into the premium club, into the Cockaboose Club. There's, it basically kind of looks like a train car inside it, all the bars and then the service stations, that kind of thing. They've got signage on the walls, and it's really a neat looking thing. And, that's what you want to have. You want to have kind of that tradition, that carryover, and how you're always promoting your product. So that was a nice little thing to see. And then from where that premium club is, you could step right out onto the ground floor there and walk right out to the parking lot where all the Cockabooses actually are. So it was really well done. They're almost done with it. They're pretty much just putting on the bells and whistles, finishing touches for everything right now. So everything's looking good to be done by September 26th.
Did Coach Tanner who was involved in actually conducting the tour? Coach Tanner and whom else?
It was Tanner, Steve Eigenbrot,
Yeah.
who's an assistant athletic director, the university architect Derek Gruner, and a few other folks have been involved in the planning of it.
Okay, did they elaborate on where some of these plans came from? I mean, have they did they I don't want to say take this from other facilities or anything like that, but where some of their ideas maybe were spurred from?
Well, they've looked at a lot of stadiums. They didn't really go into specifics on who they looked at, but they looked at a lot of stadiums and what they do, and it's all about the fan experience. The better game day experience. Now, me, that's another phrase that's kind of a pet peeve of mine. I'm like, the best fan game day experience is if the team wins.
No kidding.
But obviously you can't control that. So you do have to make sure that everything's, pretty and available and the restrooms are clean and that kind of thing. So they borrowed from a lot of places. Well, actually not borrowed, but, got some ideas and put their own USC-centric touch on them. The result looks really good. The 2001 entrance will be heavily revamped. You won't be able to really see them massing at the tunnel now. It's pretty much like they'll come out of the locker room, go past a row of windows where some donors will be able to open those windows and, slap them five or whatever, or pat them on the shoulder pads as they go past. And it's going to look a little bit different. But mostly everything will stay the same. They filled in that corner above the locker room with seats now. And they've pretty much redone the entire, let me get my directions straight here, the entire west side to where, you remember they had that row underneath the upper deck of what were garnet seats, but they've been kind of turned to pink by the sun.
Oh, yeah.
Those are gone now.
Yep.
The new seats are gray. They're still there, but there's the whole big club stretches the entire length of the West Stands Concourse. So, as they said, they touched over 100,000 square feet of the stadium to do these renovations, and it's going to affect about 20,000 fans on game day. It's just a shame that, they were starting to do this as soon as the Clemson game ended last year, and then we've got the pandemic, and then there's going to be only 20,000 fans or slightly less to be able to go to a game this year. But that's where we are, and this thing's going to be a big project for the future fans to come to.
How about the signage up there of some of the Gamecock greats like Marcus Lattimore wrapping, one of those poles, towers? What would you like to call that?
Those are turns. The
ramps.
Ramps.
Yeah.
Sure, ramps.
Yeah.
How about that? How'd that look?
I mean, those were great. They've put Brian Edwards' name up there now, befitting his status as a record holder for receptions and yardage. And the best thing is that the ramps that were already in place, the signage there, they weren't affected by the new improvements, specifically in that, I guess it was southeast corner. Southeast corner. Just because there was or maybe southwest corner, there was Eric Norwood's name right up there, but they were able to put the new structure and buildings for that right up under that ramp in his name, so it wasn't affected. They didn't have to redo that. So, I mean, it looks great. They did take a little bit of color out just because of those old garnet/pink seats and made them gray again, but it's like, well, if you just go ahead and paint them to kind of blend into the scenery, fans are going to be sitting in them anyway, so what's it matter?
Absolutely. Yeah, they look spectacular for the last few years. From my seats in the south end zone, I continue to look over those and go, my God, when are we going to get rid of these things? They finally did. The new attendance figure is what, 77-something?
77559.
Okay, so they.
I didn't think it was going to drop that much, but apparently it did. I was under the impression that the old stadium was 80250.
Right.
I thought it was going to go just below that. So, I guess in the grand scheme of things, around 3,500 seats is just below that. But, yeah, it's now 7,759 for the capacity of Williams-Brice.
Yeah, I remember when I talked to Coach Tanner about it last year, and he had said, yeah, it'll be probably a shade below 80,000. Yeah, I'm with you. I didn't realize it'd be mid-70s, but that's okay. Now, moving outside the ballpark, do we have an update on the ever so popular Gamecock statue that has somehow mystified fans for the last 3 years or so?
Yeah, well, again, and it's like Ray Tanner made the announcement. He said, you remember how you used to go to the movie theater and they would have the coming attractions?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's coming soon. And, I think he realized even too, it's like, yeah, we've been hearing that for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
But I can report, and as I put a picture out there, the stand is in place. The stand for that statue to be built on/around is in place in the middle of that big hedge right up by the George Rogers statue.
Okay.
So he says it's coming. I believe it will be in place by September 26th. But as a friend of mine said, for all of the consternation, cost, and length of this thing, it'd be better if you just put a big white elephant out there, to really kind of symbolize how this process has been delayed so many times. Now, I can promise you, USC didn't lose any money on the deal. They ended up actually making some back because the thing took so long.
Mm-hmm.
But why did it take so long? Well, you can't rush art. And if the artist says it's not done, then it's not done. So
okay,
that's why it took so long.
Isn't this coming from like California or something?
Yeah, I mean, it was built there, and what they had to do is pretty much break it down in pieces and drive it across the country. So I was like, all right, well, I mean, that's understandable. It's just why did it take so long to make?
I mean,
'cause we started talking about this thing 3 seasons ago.
What did they do? Did they have it on the backs of some assembly line that's walking it across the country?
Well, that's the thing. You have to build it in sections so it can come apart, and then you bolt it all together, I guess, when it gets here. But, it's just going to be something else to look at. You used to say, hey, meet me at the Rocket in the fairgrounds. Now you say, hey, meet me at the Giant Gamecock at the stadium.
That's right.
So it's something pretty to look at. I mean, obviously, we didn't know that there were going to be this many financial concerns coming into this season, but this has been paid for long ago.
Yeah.
And they actually were able to recoup some money from this deal because it took so long. So it'll be up, and, it'll hopefully be standing there for a lot of years to come. I'm just hoping that nobody gets wise and tries to go over and put graffiti on it because it's in kind of a visible place, and that probably wouldn't be a real smart thing to do.
I was about to comment on that. If one of these jackasses that has all the the kahunas in the world like we've seen across the country to go out and rip down statues all over the place, if they try to do that, they're going to be met with an angry group of garnet and black clad Gamecock fans. God knows what they'll be carrying. People have been obsessed over this statue for like 5 or 6 years. Nobody's going to let anything happen to it. They might have armed guards out there every night.
Well, I mean, the police are just down the street now. They just have it's not relatively new, but there's a Columbia Police Annex, I mean, less than a block away with a full eye on it at all times. So, again, it's like when I went to the Russell House the other day and somebody had spray painted a message to President Kaslan on the side of the building.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I looked at it and said, how did you have time to do this? I mean, because this is a well-lit area, I mean, it's like one of the most well-lit on campus. You got streetlights all over the place and lights illuminating the flags. And like, man, I mean, somebody must have had some serious stones to stay there for that long and spray paint that message.
That's right. Speaking of lights, David Cloninger joining us here on Twitter at DCPNC. Pick up your Post and Courier day in, day out, and read what David's got to say about the Gamecocks. But speaking of the lights, they'll be underneath them on Saturday night. A very important scrimmage coming up for Carolina inside of Williams-Brice Stadium. No media or anything will be allowed in there, but from what I understand, Coach Muschamp's going to meet with the media following this scrimmage, probably fairly late. So you got a late night ahead on Saturday, DC. At least there'll be some football to have on in the background. What are the most important keys in this scrimmage for you? What are you interested in hearing about once it commences?
Well, I think everybody wants to hear about the quarterbacks, Jamie, and you look at it where this Saturday you're pretty much roughly 2 weeks from the opener. That's usually about the time that you want to have a definite number one guy, so he's getting a majority of the snaps in practice. Now, I don't know if that will happen this Saturday. I know that because the actual scrimmage is going to be in the evening, just because it is too damn hot to be playing football under a noontime sun right now. That Will Muschamp actually won't speak until Sunday evening.
Oh, okay.
So we're actually going to have to see what's going to happen then. But maybe they'll have a decision. Maybe they'll just say, you know what, both guys are still too close to call, and we're going to wait because they're both getting equal reps anyway. Maybe we'll see something right there. But, with the scrimmage, I could offer a lot more if I could go and sit and watch if we had some stats or whatever. I mean, not that stats would mean that much from a scrimmage, but it's just you hope to have all of the basics down by this point. And you just work on fine-tuning things. You work on what precisely is Tennessee going to do? What precisely is Florida going to do? They're the first two opponents, and you can start really putting your game plans in for those games. So by this point, you hope to have everything basic done. You know what your best defense is going to be, your best offense is going to be, and hopefully the guys that can go out there and perform it for you.
Outside of QB, is there another position battle that you're very intrigued by right now?
I think really just all over that offense, Jamie. I mean, the line seems to be pretty set, but, with Marshawn Lloyd going down, okay, is it Zaquandre White going to be the guy to, be the bell cow running back? Is it going to be two of the guys that came back from last year, Harris and Fenwick? Is it going to be Rashad Amos, the freshman? And then you look at receiver too. I mean, again, you have Shi Smith, but who else do you have? Mm-hmm. There's been a whole lot of talk about Jalen Brooks, and I know he's doing well, but right now Jalen Brooks is ineligible. Right. Now, hopefully that changes, but you guys know as well as I do, if you're counting on the NCAA to do South Carolina an eligibility favor, it's probably not going to happen. We'll see if it happens. You hope it happens, but right now, I mean, how are they going to do that? I mean, the NCAA just furloughed everybody for 6 weeks, so I don't know how that's going to work with eligibility concerns.
That's a good point.
That's a really good point. I tell you what's most interesting to me is just watching what the offense itself will look like. I mean, I continue to hear, really positive things about the offense itself and the fact that it's night and day different from anything we've seen under Coach Muschamp over the last few years. I mean, regardless of what guys are out there, the formations, the change in personnel, things that you haven't seen a bunch of over the last few years under Kurt Roper and Brian McClendon. I mean, I wish we could get a sneak peek at it, but just watching how Mike Bobo manages the system against the defense, which I think right now is much more set, at least in the starting lineup, than the offense is.
I think so, Jamie, and it's mostly because all those young guys, particularly on the back end, they've had a season of experience now. So everybody's experience that you could put out there on defense, and that's what you want to have. You don't have to coach up those guys so much because it's just going to be instinct, and you're going to say, okay, I know what to do. You don't have to wonder about what plays I'm going to have. So the defense, I think, is probably further along with the offense just because the offense is like, well, you are learning a new playbook, and you don't really know outside of a couple of guys in your skill positions who's going to do what. But in terms of the Mike Bobo offense, what has Will Muschamp said? Up-tempo, a lot of second-guessing, a lot of eye candy, a lot of shifts in motion to get the defense guessing, and saying, all right, what are they going to do here? Are they rolling this guy out because they're going to go to that strong side, or are they just going to hand it off, run it up the middle? It has to be unpredictable. It has to just be a different wrinkle because that's why the guy was hired. And why was the guy hired? Because the offense has just been so consistently bad the past couple years, and you can't blame it all on injuries. You have to blame it all and say, this is just not good. It's just predictable. You know what's coming. And if you know what's coming sitting up there in the press box or in the south end zone, I would think that the opposing DC knows what's coming.
I promise. David, you've hit the nail on the head. I've had this discussion 1,000 times if I haven't had it once. I've called, I can't tell you how many plays just sitting there. I'm glad I don't sit in the press box. I don't want to. I would lose my mind. It's embarrassing, unpredictable. Spot on. All right, so what's in the paper the next few days?
Well, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but everybody should read a page on Sunday.
Okay.
It will be out on Sunday, just about the future.
Okay. All right.
Read it Sunday.
The future of
your future.
Well, I'm not talking about the Space Force. I'll give you that.
Okay. All right. I love my Sunday morning back porch reading. Hopefully, if it's cooler.
David's got teases down, man.
I know. Yeah, he's good at this. You should be a radio host.
I got a face meant for it. So.
Welcome to the club. DC, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time as we always do. Cannot wait for football season to get here. But enjoy football tonight. Enjoy football on Saturday. There is some form of it back. And next week, the ACC, the Big 12, they all return and things like that. So we're beginning to get excited, buddy. Great work as always. Thank you.
No problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
On Twitter at DCPNC, Post and Courier, David Cloninger on the Gamecock beat, as always. All right, we got to beat this segment. Get the hell out of here. When we return, we'll go to Atlanta, take a quick drive west, and that's where Corey McCartney is waiting patiently, and we'll get into some Braves baseball and much, much more on the other side of this break. JB and Goldwater Show, driven by our friends at Stokes Volkswagen.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. Every 2020 Tiguan S, our best-selling third-row SUV, is $3,500 off plus 0 APR for 72 months. But wait, there's more. With $299 down, you can own the Tiguan S for just $299 per month for 72 months at 0% APR. Not just one at this price, over 22 Tiguans to choose from. All $3,500 off plus 0 APR for 72 months and $299 down, $299 per month. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, we are so desperate for used cars that we'll take any trade in any condition, running or not. We need your trade more, so we'll flat out give you more. And don't worry about your credit. Our lenders are more lenient than ever. So if you're interested in saving $3,500 on a new Volkswagen Tiguan S and owning it for $299 down, $299 per month, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or StokesVW.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks. Not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
Hey guys, it's Darren, just here to tell you about our good friends over at Dog and Duck. They've got 3 locations, one in Bell Hall, one in Park West, and one, the new one, out on Clements Ferry. I can tell you from personal experience, it's the only restaurant in town that I've been to since this whole place has reopened. Everything is socially distant, very comfortable, and to top it all off, great selection of rotating craft beers, food specials every day, family meals. If you don't want to go in, you can order it and have some curbside pickup as well. Dog and Duck, 3 locations, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
Hey! Now, hear this.
Who the hell is that?
The JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
12:38. Welcome back to JB and Goldwater Show. Driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. To my left, that's Darren Goldwater, right smack dab in the middle of us, not of town, of Atlanta maybe. That's Corey McCartney. Hey, man.
How you guys doing?
Well, you're not in the middle of Atlanta. You're outside of Atlanta. You're on the outskirts.
Yeah,
you're in the
that's
suburbs.
right.
You're in the burbs.
I did. They called it ITP. I did that for a while, and I've been OTP for a long while.
Good for you. Hey, dude, I wouldn't want to be sitting in the middle of Atlanta, Georgia.
No.
Oh, my gosh.
Downtown Atlanta is one of the last places I'd want to be.
Not with all that traffic
No.
and everything. Fun after the Braves win. They've been doing a lot of that. We'll get there in a minute. Corey, Tom Seaver passes away yesterday at 75 years old, one of the greatest players we've ever seen. Your thoughts and memories of Tom Seaver?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I was it was a little before my time, but certainly, you hear the stories and the records that speak for themselves. When I was writing my Braves book, it was kind of funny. Bobby Cox actually relayed the story then in 2014 that they were on their way to the ceremony in the bus, where they have everybody travel over to the rec center where they give the speeches at. And Tom Seaver was drilling all the guys that day saying, I know you're going to get up there. The one thing you cannot forget is your significant other's name. So he was drilling every one of them. And when he asked Bobby Cox, he responded, he said, you better not forget her name. So he kind of became an elder statesman of sorts for the rest of those guys coming up through there. But obviously, the guy that most people consider the greatest Met of all time. So, the impact on the game was certainly undeniable.
I loved his quote from the afternoon he was inducted into Baseball's Hall of Fame. I read this morning. I made sure to jot it down. It is the last beautiful flower in the perfect bouquet. Isn't that neat? Just very eloquently said. Yeah, what an arm. What an arm. I think when you talk about the greatest pitchers of all time, this generation, I would say that's closely related to my age, forgets a little bit about Tom Seaver. I have to remind them, go back and check the stats and what videos available and things like that. Tom Seaver was, one of the guys who transformed the game.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, when you start thinking about the expansion era, he's top 2-3 pitchers of the expansion era, maybe the best pitcher of the expansion era. So, it's again, it's undeniable, and the greatest of Mets. So the team had already done so much to kind of immortalize him with a statue, changing the address of the stadium to be 41 Seaver Way and all that for his number. So, the impact certainly is unquestionable.
No doubt about it. Want to remind folks, too, early last year is when he was diagnosed with dementia. So he's kind of been hunkered down for the last year and a half or so. All right, Corey, turning our attention to the hot Atlanta Braves, and that's not because of the temperature. It's because of the bats and the arms. 7-5 last night. Red Sox are terrible, but it doesn't matter. It's still hard to go in Fenway and win. Really cool stat here. I know Corey knows every stat, but the Braves, Corey, I couldn't believe this to be true, so you need to confirm it before I'm really going to believe it. The first team in the history of the sport to have back-to-back nights where different teammates hit 3 home runs.
And I'll tell you how unbelievable it was that, when we talked to Adam Duvall after last night's game, when he followed up Marcelo Zuna, who did the same thing on Tuesday, that Duvall was told that it was the first time. He thought it was the first time in Fenway. And he said, I'm rounding third base. You think about how old the stadium is. He was like, no, Adam, this is the first time any team has ever done this anywhere. And he was a little taken aback by that. So, certainly when you supplant Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth, who had done it in 2 consecutive days, but they did it as part of 2 doubleheaders, so there was 2 games between it. It's incredible. And, I guess if you're not going to go out and get arms at the trade deadline, having guys hit back-to-back days with 3 home runs each is a pretty good game plan to win games.
No kidding. They're on a 4-game winning streak. They're averaging about 9 runs a game in those last 4. They outslugged the Phillies, and then they went to Boston and swept the Red Sox. And good thing they're on that 4-game winning streak, because all of a sudden the Phillies are playing some decent baseball. They've won 3 in a row, and they're 3 games back of Atlanta, so this will need to continue against the Washington Nationals tomorrow after an off day today. But over the last few days, Corey, I think they've now won something like 8 of their last 11 games or something like that. You could even go further than that. What has most intrigued you about the Braves and their success during this stretch that gives us some hope that they can make a similar run in the postseason?
Well, I think Ian Anderson's ascension is certainly the biggest piece of it for me. You know what you're going to get from Max Fried. Actually wrote on Talking Chop today that, this guy is not just putting himself in the consideration to be an NL Cy Young favorite. He's not getting any love there, but I think we need to start talking about Max Fried in terms of NL MVP candidates. This guy has been absolutely lights out every time out, but there hasn't been anything substantial behind him until Ian Anderson showed up, and he's been fantastic his first 2 outings. The changeup has been just unbelievable. It's been almost unhittable to think about. He didn't start even really throwing that until he got into the pros, and it's become certainly his best secondary pitch. Got a 20-something% whiff rate on that pitch right now. Guys just cannot touch it. So I think to have a secondary guy to Max Fried, especially when you consider what they did not do at the trade deadline, no offense to Tommy Malone, I think that has to be the biggest development for the Braves of late.
This is a season where, teams, I guess it's magnified. Maybe it feels a little bit different to me, but the hot and cold stretches for individual teams right now. You think the Padres, you think the Rays when they got hot, the Cubs when they were on fire, now the Braves. It feels like the hot and cold stretches are even magnified now, and now we're 25 games or so away from the end of the regular season. This is the time to be peaking right now. Where can the Braves get better to continue this peak?
Well, I think, just having somebody other than Fried and Anderson now, I think that's where it's going to have to start now. Because obviously, if you're going into a series, you're not going to be running those guys. Those 2 guys are not pitching 4 games for you, unfortunately. So you're going to have somebody else come out of the woodwork here pretty much. I don't think Tommy Malone is going to be the answer. He looked unfortunately looked really bad his first go around in a Braves uniform. They're now kind of looking to Gwinnett. And those guys there, you've got Mike Fultonevich, who Alex Anthopoulos said has put some weight on. So I think some admission there that, physically things just weren't right for him. The velocity's coming up. Cole Hamels threw a bullpen session on Sunday, so they're going to start to build up his innings. Now it's just a matter of whether you let him do that in Gwinnett at the alternate site, or you let him build those up at the major league level, which may be a little bit more valuable now. Or is it Bryce Wilson, Tuki Toussaint, Kyle Wright? All those guys are sitting there, and they all have a lot of opportunities for guys to get these innings. I just don't think giving them to a guy like Robbie Inland, like we saw, pitch some really bad games of late, 9 earned runs his last 2 games, is really what you should be doing with meaningful innings at this point in the year.
We're talking with Corey McCartney now. How about on the national scene? Fair to say the Padres won the trade deadline, or did they give up too much?
No, I don't think they did. I mean, I was very much in the camp that, I know we talked to Alex Anthopoulos the day of the deadline, and he said that, teams just wanted too much from the Braves. Clevenger, Lance Lynn in particular, to get those deals swung. They wanted Pache, they wanted Drew Waters, they wanted Ian Anderson, maybe combination of those guys. I'm to the point where you've got to make a gamble if you're going to get over the top. I mean, I go back to, the Reds and the Royals, when the Royals got Johnny Cueto, and the Reds, and they got 2 top 100 prospects. Obviously they didn't pan out, but you had to give a gamble to get the kind of guy that you wanted. The Braves did not do that. The Padres did, and they're just so deep in their farm system. This team's not going anywhere for a while. Clevenger has club control. That was the move I would have swung if I was Alex Anthopoulos, and I think they're going to regret that kind of maneuver, because it would have strengthened them not only for this year, but you think about the rotation for the next couple years.
Who lost at the trade deadline?
I think the Braves were one of the big losers. I think they needed to make an upgrade. I think they were a team, even the Yankees too, teams that we're considering as ones that, can go out and challenge for a championship. They have holes, they have deficiencies, and they did not go out and meet them.
Before the year, though, they didn't, because they spent $18 million on Marcell Ozuna, and he's worth every penny right now. He's hit 12 home runs, 31 ribbies, 133 at-bats. Imagine what that would equate to if he was able to play an entire season for Atlanta, if he could keep this up. Oh, by the way, he's also up over 300 at 301 on the year. I want to ask the question, like, how significant was his signing? But what a stupid question that is. Would the Braves be anywhere close to where they are right now without him?
I don't think so. And honestly, not to toot your own horn, but I was calling for Ozuna late last season. I thought he made a ton of sense for this team, just the makeup of him. And then certainly he goes to the postseason and just tears things up at SunTrust Park. So I've been really high on this guy for a while. I think now the thing is, do you try to lock him up before we find out what happens in 2021 with the designated hitter? I think it's all but a guarantee that when you look at 2022, when we have the new agreement in place, there will continue to be a designated hitter in the National League. I don't think anyone disputes that. But what happens next year? And if you wait until the winter to try to lock him up, you have 14 more teams that are potentially not going to want to play him maybe in the outfield, but want to use him as a DH along with all those AL teams. So I think it's priority number one. This is going to be a contract year coming up for Freddie Freeman as well. Let's make Freddie Freeman happy. Let's make Marcell Ozuna happy and that lineup happy. Keep him in a Braves uniform.
How about Dansby? I mean, this kid, he's been up there in the leadoff spot. The consistency he's had at the plate this year, by far the best in his big league career. Last night, I know he was 0 for 5. They did win the game, but that was only the second time since August the 11th that he didn't have a hit in the ball game.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about the makeup of that lineup right now, we talked about Marcell Ozuna. Certainly Freddie Freeman, since August 9th, has been absolutely on fire. But think there's no Ozzie Albies. He hasn't played in a month. Ronald Acuna Jr. missed time. He's been out again. He's going to be back in the lineup tomorrow. So that 1 and 2 in that lineup has had a lot of question marks with it. And Dansby Swanson has stepped up and really been a major driving force for them. Certainly, from an advanced metric standpoint, he's hitting 21% above league average. He's never hit above league average for a duration of a season in his career. So it's not only a big season for him, but he stepped up in a major way when this offense has really needed him to.
All right, in the American League, Corey, let's take a drive around baseball real quick here. I know that the Rays are 4.5 up on the New York Yankees, 26-12 on the year, playing exceptional baseball. White Sox have lost their last 2 games, but they're not going anywhere. They're still at 22-15, a game back of the Cleveland Indians. They'd actually claimed the top spot in the Central, I think, for a day or two, but they shifted back. But my question to you is, can either one of those teams win the World Series?
I think the White Sox can. I have some question marks about the Indians offensively. They have the worst outfield in baseball, the worst production cumulatively of any outfield in all of Major League Baseball. So I think there's some issues there. The White Sox just have so much firepower. They've got, a guy in Giolito that you have no questions about, where he's trending in his career. So they have pitching, they have a bullpen. I think that's a team that can really make some noise. I know certainly you get to a postseason and you think about, how much pitching can matter and how much we saw pitching matter last postseason. The Indians are certainly built for that with Shane Bieber, the leading candidate for the AL Cy Young atop that rotation. But to me, this oddity of a year, give me some firepower, and the White Sox don't certainly have that.
How about a team under the radar right now, underperforming? Is there anyone with, less than half the year to go that can turn things around and come from the bottom up?
Well, I know there's some teams that think they can. I mean, the Reds were a team that I think anyone thought was going to be a seller at the deadline. I talked to some front office execs that really thought that, especially with Trevor Bauer having that expiring deal, that they should have been of the mind to sell, but they were adamant that they believe they're in this thing, setting 6.5 back right now. So I think they're a team that could really make some noise. The Twins just got healthy. Think about that. Josh Donaldson just came back last night. Had a couple RBI in his return. Missed 30 games with the issue with the calf that obviously got him a 1-year deal last year. There was a reason teams didn't want to go in for him. Ends up obviously signing that big deal with the Twins, but they're getting healthy again. So I think the Twins are a team that you got to watch out for. I know we just talked about the White Sox. That AL Central, it's looking awfully tough right now.
Oh man, it is. It's the best race in baseball. You got 3 teams within a game and a half of each other. Is there another division that down the stretch, and we've said the National League East throughout the year, the Phillies are only 3 back, the Marlins are only 4 back. Hey, don't worry about those Nationals. They're 9 back. They're not going anywhere.
Oh, and they're painful to watch right now.
But is it the National League East that would maybe be right now the next division to keep an eye on, maybe that could be a little bit closer down the stretch?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the Yankees have had some issues of late, and the Blue Jays, 5.5 back. Do they end up supplanting them? But certainly you have to think about the fact that you've got 8 teams getting in now. So you're basically taking, the first and second place team from each division, 2 wild cards. So you're maybe not looking at it from that end. I mean, you think about get into this postseason and see what happens more so than any other year when we're not going to have those wild card, as many, just that one and done situation there. So, I think it just paints itself into be a different scenario. So to me, just get in and let's see what happens.
All right, I know the Padres are the hot commodity in baseball. We'll lump them into this conversation by way of one player here in just a moment. But as it stands, I think we're a little over 20 games left in the regular season. God, that's crazy. Today, as it stands today, you already mentioned Max Fried, but as it stands today, who are the leaders to win the National League and the American League Cy Young Award?
Well, I mean, in the National League, you got to start with Fernando Tatis Jr., right? I mean, this guy's been just a force of nature. I mean, it's been unbelievable. Mike Yastrzemski is right there. Mookie Betts, Ian Happ. Jesse Winker has basically come out of nowhere for the Reds to speak of what 2020 is, a guy that, you think about the Reds and you're putting him like maybe 4th down on there. But I think if the Padres are, if they seem as they are destined for the postseason, I think he has to be your absolute favorite. The Giants may not get in as great as Yastrzemski has been. They may not get in. And then you look at the AL, and Anthony Rendon has been the most valuable hitter in that league. But I think Nelson Cruz, I think, the guy just keeps getting it done. We talked about the Twins and the trajectory they're on, very much in a path to make the postseason. So I think right now I would go Tatis and Rendon. But I do think you've got to pay attention to Max Fried. I mean, we've seen it before when a guy takes the Cy Young and MVP. We haven't seen it since Clayton Kershaw. Justin Verlander obviously did it. But when you think about value to a team, it's really hard to argue that the Braves would be where they are in the standings right now if they did not have that certainty of Max Fried every time he takes them out.
Just talking about potential MVP candidates here in the American League, you mentioned Rendon and Cruz, but how about somebody from the White Sox? What about Robert? What about Abreu?
Yeah, I mean, Robert's right there. I mean, Robert's obviously right there. That's, Jose Abreu. I mean, they've got Tim Anderson. I mean, they've got a lot of guys, and I think you kind of start to look at them as, you think about back in the day, at USC when you had Leinart and Bush at USC, and you're like, okay, which one of these guys is the real Heisman candidate? You kind of obviously it worked out for them for a couple years, but just to have that much star power on one team, I think, Cruz has been so instrumental in what they do. And we just talked about Josh Donaldson missing all that time. That was a major upgrade for them. to bring him into the mix. So I think the White Sox have been a great story, but they've got more than one guy you could look at as the MVP candidate right now.
Interesting. I always thought that Leinart and Bush played for Southern Cal.
What did I say? Oh, I got you. Yeah,
it's okay.
I forget when in that little pocket there.
Yeah.
USC means something different.
I can't tell you. I've been down here for 18 years, and it took forever to learn the whole USC issue, and then the whole Carolina thing. I mean, that's a whole different issue.
Well, that's the real issue. We are Carolina down here. That's the USC. Southern Cal can have that, but we're Carolina. Forget those folks. They're in North Carolina. All right. The Cy Young. Yeah. Look, you're hard pressed to look much further than Max Fried right now. 6-0. His ERA is under 2. He's been sensational. What about in the American League?
Oh, it's Shane Bieber, right?
Okay,
I mean, that's the AL war leader right now is Shane Bieber. And, he's just been so good. So good to the fact that, the Indians were willing to deal Clevenger at the deadline. And, obviously we know his flippant regard for the safety protocols when you got a guy coming back from having fought off cancer in Carlos Carrasco. They were willing to move him. A lot of teams wouldn't have been willing to do that. But a lot of teams don't have a guy like Shane Bieber at the top of their what's the best rotation in baseball. So I think you've got to look at him. Lance Lynn's right there, Zach Greinke, but it's head and shoulders as Shane Bieber right now.
Who was the last Brave to win a Cy Young?
Tom Glavine.
It was Glavine, right? 22 years ago? Was that 98?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Tom Glavine was the last one.
That is just hard to think. Because you had Maddox who won it in 93, 94, 95, and then I think Smoltz won it in 96, right? Or 97. And then Glavine, so they had 5 out of 6 years or 6 out of 7 years or something like that. 5 out of 6 years.
Yeah, Glavine was last.
That is hard to believe. All right, real quick, how about how about the Rookie of the Year candidates? If we had to decide today, we already mentioned Robert in the American League. Would he be your Rookie of the Year in the AL?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of have to go with him. I mean, Kyle Lewis from the Mariners has been really good too. Jordan Romano from the Blue Jays, but I think you definitely have to go with Robert right now. And then on the National League side, Jake Cronenworth with the Padres. I mean,
what a story!
Padres are going to have a nice, and then Jake Tingler looking like Manager of the Year, right? I mean, so the Padres I think are going to end up with a nice few additions to their awards trophy case this offseason.
Is Cronenworth hitting 350?
Yeah, 356. Yeah,
it's a rookie. Wow. Oh, wow. Incredible.
I tell you what, Tingler's going to go from a guy, everyone, including people out in San Diego, he gets hired and everyone said, who? To winning a Manager of the Year.
Might win a World Series.
Yeah. Name that definitely made you snicker a little bit.
Yeah. I tell you what would be interesting if we could somehow forget it. That wouldn't be interesting because the Braves wouldn't be there, or at least on my side. But if you saw the Padres and the Dodgers somehow end up against each other in the National League Championship Series.
It's
in Texas because they're going to do the bubble, right? So you're going to have them playing in Texas.
Yeah.
The whole thing will be weird. I mean, the postseason, we could talk about these matchups and what may be fun, but it's all just going to be so weird to have them in some random neutral site with no one there.
Baseball is great.
Yep.
I mean, this is great to watch right now. It's fantastic. You've got teams that no one expected much out of, and they're playing really well. We're already in the stretch run. You got new names. I mean, it's just been awesome. What did we miss, Corey? Anything we missed?
No, you guys are all over it.
Well, yeah. What can I say?
We fake it.
Well,
with
you didn't
the
talk
best
about
of
the
them.
stuff with the Rays and the Yankees last night.
Yeah.
Kevin Cash basically setting himself up to, laying some threats down, right?
Yeah.
Laying some threats down.
That was interesting. Yeah. I tell you, they don't like each other.
Nope.
At all.
No, they do not. No.
Well, we'll see.
We could talk Trey Turner. I mean, he's on fire, but they're just irrelevant.
They're terrible.
All right, so Nationals Braves getting ready to meet up, right? This is setting itself up to be the first season since Scherzer and Strasburg have been in the league that the Braves won't see one of them.
All year.
What a stat.
All year. They will not see them this year. Obviously, they're not going to see Strasburg. He's out after having the carpal tunnel syndrome surgery. But Max Scherzer, as it sets up, he just pitched yesterday, so they're probably not going to see him. They face him 2 of the next 3 series. So no Scherzer the entire year for the Braves.
And they have a double dip tomorrow and then Saturday, Sunday. So they got 4 games. I've got to run to the store today. Corey, should I purchase a new broom for my friend Darren over here?
No.
No.
one that does curly little W swoops.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's what I'm looking for.
you guys have your fun. I'll just keep wearing that World Series championship gear.
I know. 2019 matters. Corey, thank you so much. We hope you have a wonderful weekend. Didn't get to dabble in any college football with you, but let's see. Go Navy. Go Navy, right? Are we all pulling for Navy on Monday?
Absolutely.
Hey, my grandpa's in the Navy. I got a Purple Heart back there from him for the Navy, so I'm pulling
dude,
Navy.
Done.
I'm totally in with that. I'm a Navy fan. Absolutely. College football's back. We'll get to more of that with you next week. Corey, thank you so much, brother.
All right, thanks, guys.
On Twitter at Corey J. McCartney. Corey McCartney in Atlanta, Georgia. Time for a timeout. When we return, high school football. I mean, we're driving all over the road today in our brand new Stokes Volkswagen Tiguan. We've got college football. We got baseball. We got high school football. We got golf. It's all ahead here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven, by Stokes Volkswagen.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks, not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Hey guys, it's Darren, just here to tell you about our good friends over at Dog and Duck. They've got 3 locations, one in Bell Hall, one in Park West, and one, the new one, out on Clements Ferry. I can tell you from personal experience, it's the only restaurant in town that I've been to since this whole place has reopened. Everything is socially distant, very comfortable, and to top it all off, great selection of rotating craft beers, food specials every day, family meals. If you don't want to go in, you can order it and have some curbside pickup as well. Dog and Duck, 3 locations, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back 9 is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
All right, 104, Thursday afternoon, September the 3rd. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. That's Darren Goldwater to my left. I am Jamie, and we're here for another hour till 2 o'clock. Thanks to David Cloninger and Corey McCartney for joining us in hour one. Leading off hour two here in just a moment is David Shelton, of course, with the Post and Courier. You can watch us every day on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Periscope. Listen, Podbean app. It's all free. JBandGoldwaterShow.com. Text line 843-321-8893. And without further ado, we bring in the man himself, who has been very busy as high school football has kicked off officially. Another slate of games tomorrow night and moving forward, but a bunch of really good stuff in the paper right now, and you'll want to check it out. And he's going to tell you about it on our program. It is Mr. David Shelton. Hey, bud.
Hey, guys. How are you? And I just want to say I'm so glad to be working.
No kidding.
Yeah, aren't we all?
I'm so glad to be working.
You can't say that any louder.
And not just working, man. We're like actually covering games.
Yeah, working. Real
yeah. Not just pretending. Like there's actual games that are happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a long time coming. And there's some really good games that we'll get to in a little bit as well. But so, David, you mentioned this to us. I want to say it was as far away as a couple of months ago, far back, that you were working on some really good stuff, and it has finally arrived. You have just recently released the all-decade team from the Low Country down here, so we'll run through that. And then today, if I'm correct on this, the all-Low Country preseason team comes out, correct?
Yeah, I think it's going to be in the paper tomorrow, so I'm sure they'll put it out online this afternoon. Yeah.
Okay.
So technically tomorrow, but I think it's coming out today.
What about the preseason top 10?
That'll be with that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you'll be all over the place.
Unless they decide to change things with the paper, which they do on a moment's notice, and I just roll with the punches.
That's right.
No, but it's important because all of my prep work for Friday night rivals basically comes from you and Frankie. so the sooner this stuff gets in the paper, the better it is.
So glad we can help.
Hopefully you credit him in the broadcast.
Oh, I do all the time.
Okay, all right.
Oh,
good.
They do. Yeah, they do a good job.
All right, so I'm gonna read this list here. I love when you put lists like this out, David, because everybody always wants to respond. No, so and so, are you crazy? But I think this is a great list.
It creates so much chatter, and that's really why we do. That's why I like doing them. I mean, I'm not claiming to be the end all, know all, be. I mean, there are probably some guys I miss, but it creates the chatter, and I think that's what's fun about it.
This is a hell of a college football team that's put together here. Here's the first team offense.
You're not lying.
Jacob Park from Stratford, Carryon Joyner from Fort Dorchester, Corey Fields at Baptist Hill. The tailbacks, Mikey Dukes, who's at Clemson now from First Baptist, D'Angelo Henderson in Somerville, Virgil Smalls at Goose Creek. Wide receivers, DJ Chisholm from Berkeley, Stanton Seckinger from Porter-Gaud, O'Trey Smith from Wando. On the offensive line, Zach Bailey from Somerville, John Simpson from Fort D, Blake, I can't pronounce that last name.
Gerasati.
I'm sorry to the Gerasati family. Blake Gerasati from BE, Brandon Shell from Goose Creek, Brett Toth from West Ashley. The athlete you've got listed here is Tramel Terry, who played college football for 8 years from Goose Creek, and then the kicker is Tyler Tikak from Stratford. I think where did he go to school?
He went to Charleston Southern.
Charleston Southern. That's what I was about to say. Wasn't he like an all-conference selection? All right, so
yeah, he was really good.
Really good. All right, so we'll start there with the first team offense. That's a. I mean, you got D1 up and down. Brandon Shell, Zach Bailey, John Simpson. I mean, these guys they can just flat out play.
The thing about the offensive line is, except for Blake, who was going to take a fifth year at Illinois before this crap happened, but those other four are on the NFL rosters. I mean, how would you like to be a running back and line up with your tackles, Brett Toth and Brandon Shell, your center, Gerasati, your guards, John Simpson and Zach Bailey? Okay, just hand me the ball. I mean, just hand me the ball. Me and you and Darren could rush for 1,000 yards behind that group. So, but those backs, I mean, look at you got Mikey Dukes and D'Angelo Henderson, who are just jets. And then you got big Virgil Smalls, who was 250-pound fullback that scored about 80 touchdowns in his career. I mean, you want to throw it? Okay, let's let Jacob Park and Carryon Joyner who all they did was win Mr. Football during their senior year. So, I mean, yeah, the decade was really full of really good players, really explosive players.
Who was left off that list that just missed it?
Well, I mean, if you look down, I don't know if they printed. I think they printed the second team, but those second team guys, you know, there were some good guys in that group too. So, you know, it was very tough to get it down. I mean, in fact, I originally went with 2 quarterbacks, and the more I kept looking at Corey Fields, what he did over his career, and he wasn't just a 1-year wonder. He was a 4-year guy, like the carry-on was. And I said, you know what, I can't leave him off the first team. But then you look at the second team, and you got Jonathan Bennett, who was from Somerville, who also was a 4-year starter. Now, he didn't put up the huge numbers the first 2 years. His senior year was unbelievable. I think he was a below country player of the year that year, a co-player of the year. But I mean, the football's changed so much that the numbers that kids put up nowadays are just mind blowing. You know, they catch 80 balls for 1,400 yards, and running backs rush for 1,800 yards and 30 touchdowns, and quarterbacks are throwing for 4,000 yards. And, you know, it's just crazy. The hardest part is obviously the linemen, because, you know, the first group was pretty easy. I tell you, Darren and Jamie, I put together that first team offensive line in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the names just were so obvious. It's those other places, you know, linebackers and DBs. I mean, the Low Country's had a great run of DBs in the last 10 years. So putting all those guys in, you know, yeah, I tell you this, I've only had one email where it was semi-negative, very complimentary, but a little negative. Maybe I missed this guy, and maybe I did. But normally you get a whole bunch more. This guy, you missed this guy, and I don't mind those. I mean, if I miss them, I miss them. But I think the team that we put together is very representative of what the talent was in the last decade.
The first team defense, 5 defensive linemen, shocker here. Javon Kinlaw from Goose Creek, Jamel President from Wando, went to Auburn. Michael Barnett out of Woodland, Andreas Bryant from Fort D, what a career he had. Javon Sanders at Garrett Tech, and then the linebackers, T.J. Burrell from Goose Creek, Devon Gilmore from Fort D, Joseph Moultrie from Timberland, and Trey Smalls out of Hanahan. And then, here's that group of defensive backs, Katron Allen from Woodland, also Robert Smith from Woodland, Izzy McQuamu from Berkeley, and Omar McCray from Goose Creek. Leo Albano, who's up at Notre Dame right now, the athlete from BE, and Kip Lewis, the punter, out of Northwood Academy. Again, that's you've got a team that would compete in the SEC here, first team offense, defense.
Yeah, that again, the defensive linemen. I don't know about Sanders. I'd have to check, but all those other guys you mentioned are on NFL rosters right now. Yeah. Barnett went to Georgia. He's with the Patriots. Kinlaw is obviously the 14th pick of the draft. So Jamel President, I don't think he was on an NFL roster. I don't think he is anymore. I'd have to look. But the point is, all these guys were not only good in high school, they flourished in college, and they got an opportunity to make money. So, you know, that makes them pretty good.
Who helped you put this together? I mean, you must have had endless amounts of phone calls with coaches and other folks covering high school football around here.
Actually, I didn't. I talked to a few just for some. You know, there were a couple of schools that had a couple of players that were at the same position over the decade, and I couldn't decide which one to go with. So I took some unofficial, off the record info. You know, just say, hey, coach, you coached them. You know, who's better, and then Jeff Hartzell obviously had some input. But other than that, you know, it was just me kind of research. I had a lot of time on my hands this summer, guys. So I just went through the archives and went back over the all low country teams for the last 10 years, kind of started jotting down names, you know, moving this guy here, moving this guy here. And it's funny because I did an initial list probably, I don't know, mid-June, mid to late June. And I found that initial list the other day in my stack of crap over here, And I think I made changes to this thing about 36 times.
Yeah.
So, you pick up a name, you go, oh wow, I forgot about him, and but again, the primary purpose is just to get people talking football again and remembering, wow, this guy was really good, and man, oh yeah, this guy was great. And like I said, there's some guys that probably should be there on one of the first two teams, but I went with what it was my list, so that's the way it goes. Everybody else can do their own list.
David Shelton, Post-the-Courier, is with us now. What's the most intriguing part of the high school season this year? Is it the COVID stuff, or is it some of the individual teams or athletes that we have down here?
No, I think it's definitely COVID is going to be the topic. Already we're already seeing a reduced schedule on the high school league front. The Skeeza is going to try to do them all. And I will say this: I'll have to credit Skeeza. They never wavered. They started back in June, and they set their rules, and they stuck with it. They let their teams practice and work out. They started on time. They're going to play their whole season, we hope. I was at talking with a Skeeza guy the other day, and he said their first home thing went very well in terms of social distancing, and that's going to be the thing: is how many people do you let in? And with the high school league teams, you're only playing 7 games. Mm-hmm. So every single game, especially they're all conference games except for one non-region, every game is so important now. You don't have those couple of weeks of, hey, we got to put these guys together and find our chemistry. Well, you better find your chemistry in September early, because if you wait till late October, you're going to be left out of the playoffs, and the playoffs will be limited. There'll be less teams. So every game is going to be so important. And you look at the first part of the season where Goose Creek opens. Their first 2 games are Berkeley and Fort Dorchester, or Fort Dorchester, Berkeley. I can't remember the order, but that's their first 2 games. One of them is a conference game. Berkeley, Fort D is a non-conference game. But talk about getting tested and finding out who you are right off the bat. That Fort D Goose Creek game is going to might be the game of the year, and it's played early. Mm-hmm. It's played very, very early.
David Shelton on Twitter at dshelton66. You should follow him. Of course, high school football season, he is all over it now. All right, so before we move forward, Darren, of course, will be calling the Hammond-Porter-Gaud game tomorrow night. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. Let's go backwards, though. Let's go back to last Friday, because you had First Baptist kick off their season and Will Daniel, and they had Thomas Hayward. It was a game they had to pick up late. Now, Thomas Hayward won the state championship last year, I think, at the 1A level. They're not your typical.
Yeah, they're pretty decent.
Pretty good team.
They're pretty decent.
And First Baptist whipped them, beat them by about 20 points. What do you think about the Hurricanes this year and Johnny Waters' club? I mean, he's built a great program over there.
Yeah, I think if they can develop offensively on the line, I think their defense is going to be pretty good. They had some breakdowns the other night. They got a good quarterback, senior quarterback, Will Daniel. They've got really good receivers, including a transfer from Stratford, Jalen Hayward, who's going to, he caught a couple of passes the other night. And Darren, and I'll be there tomorrow as well. We're going to see the King, Hammond, and they're still the team to beat. But I tell you, Skeeza 3A has gotten it's stepped up a little bit. I think Heathwood Hall's going to be better. I think Cardinal Newman's going to be better. Ben Lippin played Hammond pretty tough the other night. For at least a half to 3/4. But Hammond is still Hammond, and I think First Baptist has got a shot to contend. I definitely think they can be in that hunt. But somebody's got to beat Hammond, and over the last 15 years, very few people have been able to do that. So, we'll get a good look at them tomorrow night against a Porter-Gaud team that's got a really good quarterback, Matt Kelly. But they do have to replace a lot of guys from last year. So, and Hammond having that one game, to work out the kinks, I would suspect they're going to be pretty good tomorrow night.
I'm trying to remember exactly what I was told. The last time I had a Hammond game, I think it was 2 years ago maybe, but I believe I was told that not a single coach in the league had beaten Kimmery and Hammond. Is that true? Like anyone in that in SCISA Region 3, however it's particularly labeled?
Class 3A?
Yeah.
Sheesh, I don't know. I mean, they've lost games, but maybe during that current year, no coach that had.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of the coaches this year. I don't think any of those 3A coaches. Just off the top of my head, I don't think any of those guys have beaten Eric Kimmery.
Yeah.
The guy. I mean, he hadn't lost.
No.
He hadn't lost a whole lot of
No,
games.
he hasn't lost much.
So I think they they didn't win the state champ. They haven't won the state championship every year. So obviously somebody beat them. But of the current group, there's 9 or 10 3A teams, and I don't think any of those guys have ever beaten Kimmery.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'm almost really positive that none of those guys have beaten Kimmery.
Wow.
He's got a program. He's got guys.
No question.
They got Division I play. They got C.J. Stokes, who's a running back. I think it's junior. He's already been off by South Carolina. He's going to be a big time player. And Will Muschamp's got another kid over there that's vying to be the quarterback. I think he's a freshman. He's playing a little bit. He's not really the starter, but they got players all over the place.
And Mike Bobo's son, offensive lineman over there, projected to be one of the top offensive, I think, tackle prospects in the country. Certainly that's intriguing for the Gamecocks right up the road, but I think he's a junior, so he's real close with the kid who already committed to Carolina, the quarterback, Gunnar Stockton.
Yep.
How'd you like to be the coach at Hammond and have that pipeline that every time a South Carolina, Will Muschamp hires the coach, you get the son who's really good. All of a sudden you get, man, we're really hurting at tackle. No, Mike Bobo's son's 6'5", 300. He's a tackle.
That's right.
He's coming to Hammond.
That's right.
And Jordan Birch was
really good. That's a really good pipeline.
Yeah, and Birch was fair at that level. I mean, that was totally fair for him to go against that level of kids.
Well, and look, hey,
sure.
I can tell you now, the Huntley kid might play as much, if not more, than Jordan this year at Carolina at the tackle position. By the way, tomorrow night, when we had mentioned First Baptist, I want to make sure we mention this. Another really tough one tomorrow night on the road at Lawrence Manning, kicking off at 7:30. So not an easy start to the year for the Hurricanes. Does Porter-Gaud have a shot tomorrow night to hang around in the fourth quarter?
Yikes! Fourth quarter, I would say it's going to be hard. And again, they haven't played, so I mean, they may come out and score 4 touchdowns in the first quarter. I just don't, knowing their personnel, I think they're going to need a little time to develop. I think last year was a really good first year for Brad Bowles, but even he said, we're going to lose some good seniors. We got some good young ones, but we might, have to pump the brakes a little bit in 2020. And then, of course, now everybody's having to pump the brakes, but he felt like they were going to be a pretty good program, and they'll be competitive. They'll play hard, but and Hammond is not the Hammond that they've been the last couple of years. They do have some guys to replace, but they're always going to be good on defense, and I think that's where Porter-Gaud's going to have a problem. They're going to have problems scoring on Hammond tomorrow night.
All right,
enough to win the game.
I think we all know who the big dogs are still in town, but give me a couple of teams that are on the radar. A couple of, hey, watch out, they could have a good year type football teams.
I think in 5A, I think Fort Dorchester and Goose Creek are the 2 top teams, but I think Berkeley's a very, very, very close third. I think First Baptist in the SCISA ranks is probably the top team in the area. There are going to be some teams like Cane Bay who are going to be improved. They lost their quarterback, but they got some good linemen back on both sides of the ball. And I tell you, I think, Somerville's going to be decent. Ashley Ridge is going to be decent. And I think the surprise team, if I had to pick a sleeper team that makes a huge comeback, is Hanahan. I think, they won 1 game last year, but Art Craig, he wins. He's done some good things over there already. I think he's quietly optimistic. They're going to be pretty good on defense. They've got 3 really good players back on defense, a linebacker and 2 defensive linemen. The quarterback's a pretty good player. I think his last name's Shelton, but not related. But if his name's Shelton, he must be a hell of a quarterback.
Clearly, no question.
And I think they've got some pieces. I think, a lot of their problems last year, they just mentally they just had a lot of issues. They just never came together. There were some coaching, just distractions going on early on in the year, and some guys moved down to JV and all that kind of thing. And I think Art has calmed that, and before last year, Hanahan's always been pretty good. So it's not like he's taken over a program that's been awful. They just had a bad year last year. And then you bring in a guy like Art Craig, who is the winningest coach in the Low Country over the last 20 years. I think they're going to be pretty darn good. I mean, I would be shocked if they didn't win 7, 8 games. I think Bishop Ingham's going to be pretty good. I think Oceanside, they lost their quarterback and they lost that great running back, Williams. But up front, boy, they're huge. And Joe Call's the new coach, and he's an offensive guy. He's going to find a way to move the football and score some points. They got a pretty good quarterback coming up, Kepley, a good player. So I think Oceanside, they're going to, I don't know if they'll be, they're moving up to 3A, which really isn't that big a deal because that conference is not great. But they'll have to deal with Bishop England and Hanahan. I think they're going to be okay. I think they're going to, win 7, 8 games, be in the playoffs, that type team. But I tell you, their offensive line, they got a college-looking offensive line size-wise,
wow.
Including Morgan Freeling, who is the number one rated sophomore in America on the offensive line by 247 Sports.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's number 1. So, and then they've got some other guys, Jacob Ashley and Mickey Lee. All those guys have played, and they're big. They're in the 280 to 300 pound range. So I think OCA is going to be pretty good. And some interesting things to watch be how Wando, with a new coach, new head coach, Coach Adrian, how they come along. And another sleeper, not sure where they're going to fit in, but I think they're going to be pretty good, is Philip Simmons. I think Eric Bendick's done a really good job, and they got a lot of really good players over there.
Yeah, and those guys, those were a bunch of young guys for him just a couple of years ago. They've come through the system.
Yeah.
And
they're going to be some 3-year starters out there, so that's going to help.
That's right, no doubt. Yeah, very interesting in Mount Pleasant, too. You got 3, and I know that Beckham isn't up at the 4 or 5A level yet at varsity, but you got 3 high schools and 3 new coaches.
Yep.
Very interesting in the East Cooper area. Yeah, boy, how times have changed, David. All right.
Yeah.
We'll leave that there. Thank you, bud. Looking forward to seeing the All-Low Country preseason team. It's supposed to hit the paper tomorrow morning. And so, obviously, folks, if you follow the Post and Courier and David on Twitter, you might be able to get it a little bit ahead of time. But if not, we'll look for that tomorrow morning. And also, the preseason top 10. And for those who have not checked it out yet, the All-Decade team is really good. Didn't get to read all the second-team guys. That doesn't mean that they're not fantastic players because, once again, another D1 football team. Congratulations to every one of those young men that made both of those teams. David, I think you did a fantastic job in selecting all those guys.
I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun. Those things are really fun.
Absolutely.
Tomorrow, help me out tomorrow night. You can be some of my eyes out there because we're studioing it up. We're doing a remote for the game. So help me out.
Really?
If you see anything crazy that I may not see, shoot me a text.
Yeah, I thought y'all were going to be in the press box. I didn't even know that.
Well, there's not a whole lot of room at the Porter Gow press box, but that's not.
You're right about that. You're definitely right about that.
That's not the logic. It's pretty impressive what's about to be pulled off here. I think the crew's gone from about 30 people on site to 6.
Wow.
So really trying to reduce the footprint. Yeah,
just the camera guys, right?
Essentially just the camera guys.
So you and Dean tomorrow night, right?
That's right.
Are y'all going to do what the colleges and the pro guys are doing? You just going to put some cardboard cutouts of you up in the press box somewhere?
So we had a Zoom meeting yesterday. So we'll be at the station in some room. There'll be plexiglass between us. I don't know how many monitors we have. I know we have at least one. I know we have the game feed, but we'll make it work. We got a lot of good people behind the scenes. A lot of people that have been on this package for 10, 11 years, as long as it's been going. So we'll make it work, and we're going to have some fun doing it.
Good deal.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, like the rest of the world right now. David, thank you so much, as always. We really appreciate it. Look forward to having you back here hopefully next week. High school football is in full swing, and you're better at it than we are. So.
Call me when you need me. I'm always available.
Thank you so much, buddy. Really appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Thanks. You guys, too.
There you go, David Shelton on Twitter, at @DShelton66. Thanks to our friends at Patriots Point for presenting the national anthem. They do it every day, 1 o'clock right here on the JB and Goldwater show. You can head over to Patriots Point and tour the museum, patriotspoint.org. We'll tell you all about it before you get there. You can also buy tickets. And, of course, that is the home of the USS Yorktown, the USS Laffey, the USS Clamgore, and the Vietnam War exhibit. It's also the home of the Holy City Drive-In movie series, where tomorrow night, A Star is Born will be airing at 7:30. Just back your truck in, order food, order drinks, right there at Patriots Point on the banks of the Cooper River. If you've never seen A Star is Born, I would suggest maybe tomorrow night be the night you do it. A unique experience to watch a great movie, Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. And on Saturday night, you can pull up right beside Darren's car and watch The Princess Bride. That'll air at 7:30. Next Friday, American Sniper. It's Bradley Cooper Friday movie series over at Holy City Drive-In at Patriots Point. HolyCityDriveIn.com for showtimes, tickets, and more. All right, so Scott Glaze is coming up here in a few minutes. One of the things we have not gotten to today, though, is Jamie Newman opting out of the 2020 season at Georgia, and I want to hit on this for about 1 minute. I've said all along he was going to have to prove it to me. I didn't think that he was going to be the difference maker a lot of folks thought. Remember, they still have JT Daniels, but he's also rehabbing from an ACL injury, but I think he'll be fine. So is it a big loss? I tell you what, I think it's a bigger loss for him.
That's the question. I think that's the bigger question because
not at the expense of safety, if that's what he thinks.
Right.
You know
the opinions are all over the map on how good he was looking in camp. Phil Steele told us that he thinks that he could be the biggest impact quarterback transfer that's on a roster. When we talked to Phil, a couple of weeks ago now. But I do think the big question is he helping his NFL stock by not playing, or is he hurting it? Could he improve his stock by playing and playing well, or not? And I think right now, for whatever reason, in his head, the people talking to him believe that the only way he can go is down if he plays. Yeah. That has to be their belief. So whether or not that's a correct belief, because if the belief was, hey, go play well and you can skyrocket your stock, he'd play.
Yeah.
I would imagine he would play. But if you think that, or if he thinks that he can't improve his stock and he thinks that the only thing that can happen is he doesn't play well enough and his stock goes down, it makes sense to opt out.
Remember when he committed to Georgia, one of the stats I threw out there quickly was, look, man, I've rummaged through this guy's career. I've watched him. I've seen him. Matter of fact, if you remember a couple of years ago, he was actually beaten out for the starting job. I know that he had some off-the-field issues and there was a suspension, but apparently the word was he was actually beaten out by Sam Hartman, who played here in town at Oceanside, and he's going to be the starter against Clemson next week. But when I went through his stats, I looked and said the guy's had 5 career 300-yard-plus passing games, and none of them are against anybody at the FBS level. It was like Utah State and a couple of other programs that were mentioned. So not that you have to throw for over 300 at Georgia because it's a running football team, but there's some questions on the offensive line this year. They've got great receivers. Believe it or not, that's their deepest position. They're always pretty deep at running back, but right now unproven, but I don't doubt that they will be. But Georgia's defense will keep them in every game, but if they have to score points, can they? And I know that JT Daniels is a great quarterback, but you got a transfer quarterback and you got a new offensive coordinator and you don't have Jamie Newman anymore. It could be interesting.
That's a question we will ask Kevin Higgins next week. We'll have the former Citadel coach, who's now the associate head coach at Wake Forest. He will be on with us next week to help us preview that Clemson-Wake Forest game, talk a little bit about Sam Hartman. Higgins does recruit this area for Wake. He's technically the receivers coach out there, but his background is in quarterbacks and on the offensive side of things as well. So he will be able to offer a lot of input on the strengths and weaknesses of Jamie Newman and whether or not this was a good decision for him.
Fantastic. Absolutely. Scott Glaze is fantastic, too. He joins us next right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by our friends at Stokes Volkswagen.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. Every 2020 Tiguan S, our best-selling third-row SUV, is $3,500 off plus 0 APR for 72 months. But wait, there's more. With $299 down, you can own the Tiguan S for just $299 per month for 72 months at 0% APR. Not just one at this price, over 22 Tiguans to choose from. All $3,500 off plus 0 APR for 72 months and $299 down, $299 per month. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, we are so desperate for used cars that we'll take any trade in any condition, running or not. We need your trade more, so we'll flat out give you more. And don't worry about your credit. Our lenders are more lenient than ever. So if you're interested in saving $3,500 on a new Volkswagen Tiguan S and owning it for $299 down, $299 per month, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or StokesVW.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks, not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
Hey guys, it's Darren, just here to tell you about our good friends over at Dog and Duck. They've got 3 locations, one in Bell Hall, one in Park West, and one, the new one, out on Clements Ferry. I can tell you from personal experience, it's the only restaurant in town that I've been to since this whole place has reopened. Everything is socially distant, very comfortable, and to top it all off, great selection of rotating craft beers, food specials every day, family meals. If you don't want to go in, you can order it and have some curbside pickup as well. Dog and Duck, 3 locations, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
The JB and Goldwater Show.
That's us. Because we play this.
And there are these guys in a band on stage bouncing on trampolines, and one of them is playing a vacuum cleaner on his face. It was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. This band was going for it as hard as they could. I've never seen anything like it. And I said to the bartender, I was like, who is this band? Oh, this is a band from New Hampshire called Fish.
1:37. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show. Darren Goldwater, Jamie Bradford. Final segment of the afternoon. Gamecock fans just released are the mini packs that are available exclusively to season ticket holders this year for South Carolina football. So if you are listening and you are a season ticket holder, only you can purchase one or both of the mini packs that have been released by the Gamecock Club. So I would suggest you logging in and reading about it. Head to GamecocksOnline.com for more information. For more information on golf, that's why we have Scott Glaze. He is the pro out at Stono Ferry, and he joins us now. What's up, man?
What's going on, guys? It's a nice hot one today.
No
not many golfers out here today, but good to be here. And we got the finale of our PGA Tour season this week, and only to start next season in a mere, I think, 3 days later. So still going to be really exciting this week.
Absolutely. Someone's going to win $15 million tomorrow, right? Or on Monday. Monday.
Nothing to sneeze at there.
No, I don't think so. All right, Scotty. For more information, by the way, on Stono Ferry, StonoFerryGolf.com is where you can find Scott. Tee times, instruction, I need it, and a bunch more. Learn about the golf course. So much available on the website, StonoFerryGolf.com. Did see Scott last Friday. I went out there and played some golf terribly. Scott gave me a couple pointers afterwards. I went home, drank bourbon, and forgot about him. So I'll have to come back out and get refreshed.
You take this success at golf thing very seriously. I'm proud of you.
Right.
I just, I got to get things turned around. I played well on the front nine, actually. I made it out to be a lot worse than it was. Back nine.
See, that's why, when you come and take a lesson with me or get any type of instruction with us out here, we always film the lesson, different views. And because a lot of times there's a wealth of information that you get in a lesson, and then you get home or you come out to the golf course the next day and you go, wait, what in the world was Scott saying? So I always send a video with like a refresher and a review of everything that we do so that you can always refer back to that. And next time you go out to the course and you're working on what you need to practice on to improve, you can say, oh, yeah, that's right. That's what he was telling me. So that's one of the benefits of instruction out here at Stone Oak.
That's actually a great benefit. People need to pay attention to that. There you go. Well, you want to be golfers, get out there and get video by Scott Glaze, get things turned around. I'm one of those guys like on number 6 last Friday, that par 3, about 180 yards, Scott.
Yep.
I was about 8 feet from the hole, from the tee. Oh, it was great. And I was in the golf cart coming up the hill and going downhill, going to the green, and I had my Happy Gilmore moment. Oh yeah, putting. But I parred. Putting was not a problem for John Rahm and Dustin Johnson at the end of the BMW last week. Wow, 9 feet worth of putts made in just sensational form. With DJ hitting, I think it was 43-footer there to send him to a playoff, and then John, of course, putting in a 66-footer in that playoff hole on 18. When you were watching that, I mean, what were you seeing in both of those putts? Did you give either one of them a prayer to sink them?
No, not at all. I mean, even as hot as DJ is, did not see him making that to catch Rahm. I was a little conflicted there because I had picked Rahm last week as my winner, but was pulling for DJ with his South Carolina ties and the great golf that he's been playing. Did not expect him to make that putt. Kind of was, prepping dinner, kind of looking away really and just thinking it was over. And that putt goes in dead center, and it was like he did what? What happened? Show that again. That was absurd. And then to see that type of reaction from DJ, I thought was great because we never see. He's always just stone cold, very stoic. We don't see any type of reaction from him. So, I mean, that was incredibly clutch. And then we get into the playoff. John Rahm there in the rough has a difficult shot. It's looking like advantage DJ, and Rahm puts the ball on the back left part of the green there. Very crazy green complexes that we saw at Olympia Fields. And Rahm had 66 feet. And I really was thinking that he might not get down in 2 and that DJ was going to be able to 2-putt and win for the second week in a row. And then Rahm just hit a masterful putt. Perfect speed, perfect line. And the ball went in dead center. And obviously he went nuts. That's the second longest putt he's made in his career at 66 feet. And that is the longest putt hold on the PGA Tour this season, is 66 feet. And he did it basically in walk-off fashion to win. It's crazy. John Rahm, I think, is a very underrated player. We don't talk about him enough. He ascended to world number 1 this year. He's only been on tour since 2017. And since 2017, this is now his 11th victory worldwide. That also includes the European Tour. He's got some victories over there. That's tied with the most in that 3-run stretch with Justin Thomas at 11. And Dustin Johnson has 10 victories. So very underrated player. I mean, great golf last week, especially. He started the week by shooting 75 and came back and won. He really turned it on, especially the last 2 days. But that's the first winner on the PGA Tour to open with a score of 75 since Mark Calcavecchia won the Valspar in 2007. So that shows you just how difficult that is to do, to start out so poorly and then turn it around and come back and win. I loved the test from Olympia Fields. That really, really looked like a U.S. Open golf course, a championship golf course. And I'm excited to get back there again. And it put on just stunning theater. And I guess last little tidbit from that was the last time that a world number 1 has lost in a playoff since Tiger Woods lost to Billy Mayfair in 1998 in a playoff. So I think the world number 1, I think was 10-0 over the course of the last 22 years in playoffs until DJ went down last week.
Man,
Wow.
You're coming on strong today with the longest putt in Rahm's career, the longest one to end a tournament.
I got more for you. Speaking of Rahm, that's his 11th win, and that was his 99th start. So this is going to be his 100th start this week professionally.
Wow.
He has 11 worldwide wins, and he has finished in the top 10 more than 50% of his starts, which is great. So comparatively speaking, Rory McIlroy, through 99 events, had 2 wins, and he would place in the top 10 at about 39% of his starts. Jordan Spieth, through 99 starts, we know how hot he got to start his career. He had won 10 times, including 2 majors, and he was in the top 10 about 45% of the time. Finally, the GOAT, obviously Tiger, through 99 starts in Tiger's career, he had won 26 times and was finishing in the top 10 70% of the time. So when you look at that, there's no way anybody's going to catch Tiger in stats like that, but just shows I think Jon Rahm's pretty underrated, and he is a heck of a player.
Man, did Olympia Fields, because of the test it provided, is that good for the players leading into this championship and then into the U.S. Open, or would it have been more beneficial for them to kind of have the course give up a little bit more?
I think you can look at it both ways. I think it's good to have that kind of mental test. I would have enjoyed that if I was playing the U.S. Open in a couple weeks, to have that mental test of really just having to grind out pars where bogey sometimes is a good score, not having a slew of birdies, to have that and go through a little bit of a preview, a dress rehearsal, if you will, for a U.S. Open, I think is good. On the flip side of that coin is that it could also be taxing. I mean, the season has already been taxing on these guys and grueling the back-to-back weeks that they've been playing. So to go through that type of grind only 2 weeks before the U.S. Open, which is the ultimate grind, it could be a little bit taxing, especially if you're playing this week in Atlanta. So I think you can look at it one of both ways. And I know that these guys are certainly trying to find all the positives that they can out of the test that was last week, especially if they're in the U.S. Open field.
All right, let's set up this week. The Tour Championship set to tee off tomorrow. Billy Horschel and Cameron Champ will go first at noon. East Lake Golf Club in Atlanta, par 70. The yardage, 7,346 yards, of course. This is only 30 players, top 30 players, right, in the world. And then John and DJ, they're going to be at it again at 2:20 tomorrow afternoon. So, as you look at this field, it's very easy for all of us to say this is the first time ever, right? Isn't this the first time that we've had the top 3 players in the world golf rankings, and also the top 3 players? They're the same.
In the FedEx Cup standings.
In the FedEx Cup standings.
The top 3 in the official world golf rankings are mirroring the top 3 in the FedEx Cup. I do believe that stat is spot on, and it's going to be, we've got the staggered scoring. The field is handicapped, so to speak, this week. So it's only going to be, in my opinion, about a 4 or 5 horse race.
Okay, so we know who 3 are, right? JT, DJ, and Jon Rahm. Who are the other 2?
I would really look out for, so the next 2 guys in the 4th and 5th position, you have Webb Simpson, who is in 4th. He's starting at 6 under. Webb leads the tour this season in scoring average. So he's got the scoring title on the line, which is prestigious to win on the PGA Tour. What's interesting is that Webb Simpson, and we talk about distance a lot in these bombers, Webb Simpson is ranked this year 108th in driving distance. There has not been someone to win the scoring title on the PGA Tour that has ranked 108th or worse in driving distance since Luke Donald did it in 2011. It's very rare in today's modern game of golf to have someone play so well that is not long by tour standards. So Webb has that going. He's only 4 shots back. We can see him get hot. He can get streaky with that putter. He could contend. I really think that you need to watch out for Colin Morikawa. He is only 5 shots back. He struggled last week, but over the course of the weekend gained 7 shots overall on the field. I think he could be really sneaky. He is also in the same position that Rory McIlroy was in last year when Rory won the Tour Championship and subsequently the FedEx Cup, sitting in 5th, 5 shots back. So that's the only thing that we have to put this up against is last year when it was the first time that we had this staggered field. My pick this week is going to be Justin Thomas. He's sitting in 3rd, and he's 3 shots back. And last year he entered the FedEx Cup Tour Championship in that first position, and he was sleeping on the lead. He's already come out this week in his press conferences and said he believes he's the player of the year. And I think that, and excluding this week, that he's the player of the year. And I think he really wants to put an exclamation point on what's been a great year. So I would look out for him. It's going to be so hard to beat Dustin and Rahm. These guys played tremendous golf last week. DJ has just been going off the last few weeks. Let's see, through his last 4 starts on the PGA Tour, DJ got a scoring average of 66.94, and he is 53 under par, and he's just gaining a ton of strokes out there. So it's going to be really hard to beat him. However, I do think it's going to be really easy for someone like DJ to have his eyes ahead and his focus ahead to the U.S. Open. I know that seems ridiculous when we have $15 million on the line, but DJ's not concerned about money. He's got as much money as you could need. He's concerned about that prestige and the accolades that come with winning major championships, especially since he's only got the one. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe stumble this week. I don't think he'll play poorly, but he might not play at that same level. Looking ahead to the U.S. Open, I think JT is going to come in there and snag it.
Wow. Okay. So real quick here, as we wrap this up, I've only got about 2 minutes left with you on this, but you mentioned this is the second year of this format. So Dustin Johnson, he's at 10 under par to start this thing, and then it shades down from there. Do you like this?
I like it. I think it's a good because you really have to play for your finish. DJ goes out and shoots 15 over par this week. He's going to end up finishing, towards the bottom of the FedEx Cup points, and we see with the money. I've got it here. $15 million to the winner, $5 million to second. 30th place is going to make $395,000, which, hey, I'd love to be making $395,000 this week. But you do have to, because of the staggered system, you do have to play for it for this final finish. It really handicaps the guys at the bottom of the list there. It's going to be really hard for someone like Mackenzie Hughes, who played clutch golf there on Sunday to get into the Tour Championship. It's going to be tough for him to win. He's starting 10 shots back. So that's why I said it's probably a 5-6 horse race there at the top. But it's interesting. It's something that we don't do, and it gives a true winner to the FedEx Cup and also a winner of the Tour Championship. The last year in the old format was when Tiger won the Tour Championship, but he ended up finishing second in the FedEx Cup. Justin Rose actually won the FedEx Cup, and we just don't even remember that. One, because it was Tiger. Two, because of that strange format that the champion of the Tour Championship didn't necessarily win the FedEx Cup. So that's why they made this change. So the champion is one and the same of both events. So it's interesting, and this is all kind of really funny money, so to speak. So it's a fun way to do it.
Funny. Hey, I won $15 million. Isn't that funny?
Dude, I'd just be happy going out there and chopping it all over the course for 4 days and taking home $400,000. I'm good with that.
Oh, I know. Yeah, exactly. I'll go out there and have a few drinks and slap the ball around for $400,000. Yeah, I'll take that in a heartbeat.
No problem. I think
twist my arm.
I think Georgia's decent on their taxes too. So yeah, you're going to take home at least 3. That's fantastic. I'm all good. All right, out of Stono Ferry, we've parred 10, and now we're going to 11. It's a par 3. Tell us about the 11th hole out at the Stono Ferry Golf Club.
So the 11th hole is called Tides Meet. From the 11th tee, you can, like I said, from the 10th green and then the 11th tee, you can then see those pristine views as we start to approach the Stono River there. I think the 11th is our most difficult par 3
Yeah.
And it sits. The green sits in a little pocket of trees there. It's guarded by a few oaks. It's an elevated tee shot. From the back tees, it is 197 yards. It can really stretch out back there. From the very forward tee, and like I always say, we have 9 different tee boxes here once you account for combo tees, so we can accommodate any type of golfer. From the forward tee is 120 yards. So because the green sits back in this little pocket of trees, the wind tends to swirl. I think it's kind of our version of number 12 at Augusta, where you can never predict the wind. It can feel like it's in your face off of the river, and then all of a sudden you account for that on your tee shot, and you might sail the green because the wind doesn't even touch it, or vice versa. You might think it's downwind, it's actually into the wind. It's really tough to tell. So try to pay as best attention as you can to the wind on the tee shot, and then just aim for the middle of the green. The green is 29 yards deep and is protected by a bunker. It's a kidney-shaped green around a pretty penal bunker there on the left side, guarding that back left part of the green. We've talked about sucker pins before. That's a sucker pin. You see a back left pin, do not go for that one, because you got a bunker right there waiting to swallow it up. And long on that green is going to be a hazard. There's also a bunker over on the right side of the green that's going to gobble up any type of weak fade. There's a sharp slope on the front part of the green, so if there's a front pin, it's going to be very undulating, be very tough to make a putt there. So really, when you get up on 11, pay close attention to the wind. Just play for the middle of the green. Get out of there with 2 putts. I also think it's a very difficult green to read too. A lot of subtle breaks there that are tough to see. So the key on 11 is just hitting as solid of a shot as you can, trying to walk away with a 3, and then stepping up on the tee box on number 12 next week, where we then have arguably the greatest stretch of holes down in the low country.
No doubt about that. It's the most beautiful stretch, and you're right about the wind swirling there. Club up on 11. Club up. That's all I'll tell you. If you're not familiar with it, club up. Well, depending on where that pin is, but it can be deceiving quickly out there. Scott Glaze, he is the golf pro out at Stono Ferry, stonoferrygolf.com. That's where you can go to make your tee times. You should. It's going to be a great weekend to play golf. Football starting. What's better than that? Football and golf. By the way, Scott, 30-second answer. How about November 14th? Masters all day, leading right into LSU and Alabama.
Gosh, I mean, if that doesn't give you chills, I don't know what does. Of Jim Nantz kicking it over to the football coverage for so we're going Saturday, the Masters, to LSU, Alabama. I mean, I'll be glued to my couch that day.
I think they should let Nessler call the golf and let Nance call the football.
No,
with the same Masters music for the game.
Nance is too good at golf.
I'm kidding.
And Nessler's too good at football.
I know. No, I'm just kidding. I just wanted Nessler to be like, and that's a par 3 here on number 14. And Nance is whispering as they throw the football down.
Oh yeah,
we've got a.
I do like that. I like that kind of that swap there. Augusta National would probably never allow it, but I think that's a cool idea.
It is a cool idea. We've got a lot of those. Thank you, Scotty. Have a great weekend.
All right, thanks, guys. Everybody have a safe and happy Labor Day weekend. We'll see you next week.
Great weekend to play golf. Hopefully they're booked. I'm sure they are. If they're not, you should get one. Real quick on the National Day calendar, what day is today? It's a terrible day. There's nothing going on. Happy National Welsh Rarebit Day. I'm not even going to look. Don't want to know. Don't care. Not celebrating.
It's meat, isn't it? Rarebit?
What is Welsh? That's my point.
I don't know.
And happy National U.S. Bowling League Day. If you're in a bowling league, have at it. Good luck with COVID. Have fun.
Everything gets a day. Everything gets a day.
Tomorrow. Yes. It's football season.
Okay.
That's all I'll say.
And we got a big day.
We do.
A couple of things we missed. Winthrop is looking like it could become like a hub for college basketball, early season basketball tournament with some mid-majors and some majors in terms of programs. So that could be it could be a big deal for college basketball up in Rock Hill. Shelby Rogers here from Charleston has advanced into the U.S. Open third round.
All right.
Good for Shelby, who's also one of the nice ones out there. And on the take it as you will type front, well, the Big Ten's facing more confusion as they may or may not have another vote. Penn State's director of, I'll get his exact title correct, Penn State's director of athletic medicine, a guy by the name of Wayne Sebastianelli, says 30 to 35% of the Big Ten athletes that had gotten COVID have shown signs of myocarditis, which is contradicting what some other medical folks are saying.
Yeah.
But that's what the Big Ten's saying.
Could be true.
It very well could be true. And they may vote, and they may not.
Who knows? Here's what I know. It's Thursday, tomorrow's Friday, and the world changes quickly. Thanks to David Cloninger, Corey McCartney, David Shelton, and Scott Glaze for joining us today, and as always, to Darren Goldwater for his fine, very difficult, but fun work.
Thank you, man.
On our program. We hope you have a wonderful Thirsty Thursday. And we're back tomorrow on the JB and Goldwater Show. Michael Flint tomorrow, Rafael Esparza, and I'll bet you we muster up another couple things.
Going to make some football picks.
Yeah, we're going to make some picks.
Like actual
Finally.
Game stuff.
Picks are back. Have a great day. Thanks for watching and listening to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by our friends and yours